Can you see it? A crowd of martial artists glare with pure hatred at the man standing before them. To them, he's a monster. An old man screams at the top of his lungs, his face twisted in rage. This is Go Yusing, an elder of the Longshore sect, and he's here to make Kong Wenxian pay for his crimes. High up in the pink petals of a plum blossom tree, the target of their rage just watches from branch. Wenxian looks down at the sea of blades pointed his way, totally unfazed. He just smirks and asks if his only sin is truly an act of disrespect toward them. To him, these people are the ones who are actually disgusting. The old man won't shut up, calling him a brazen scoundrel. Go Yusing accuses Wenxian of murdering his own master's sworn brother, Zhao Yang. The crowd cheers the elder on, calling the protagonist no better than a beast. If that's the case, Wenxian starts, his voice dropping. He asks one more time if his death is really the only thing they want. He reaches into his robes and pulls out a wooden scripture. Go Yusing freezes, his eyes glued to the object. It's the legendary scripture of wisdom of his secret master. The elder's voice shakes as he confirms the prize everyone has been dying for. With a manic laugh, Wenxian tosses the book high into the air. Go Yusing panics, unable to believe he'd just throw away such a treasure. Wenxian decides it's the perfect time to show off his sword dance. He leaps from the branch, spinning through a cloud of petals and paper. The pages of the scripture flutter down over the mob like snow. Greed takes over as the righteous warriors scramble for the scraps. A hand reaches out to grab a page, but a blade gets there first. The scripture is mine, they scream, turning on each other in an instant. Go Yusing doesn't even see the killing blow coming as chaos erupts. It turns into a bloodbath for a few pieces of paper. Wenxian watches the slaughter with cold amusement, knowing this is all they really wanted. The courtyard is painted red as friends become enemies in a heartbeat. The legendary wisdom they sought is now just trash soaked in blood. A single petal lands in a ripple of blood on the stone floor. Crows gather on the rooftops to watch the aftermath. But things weren't always as chaotic. 10 years ago, the mood was much quieter. A black stone clicks onto the go board. A younger Kong Wenxian sits in the pavilion, watching the birds fly by. His sword rests by his side, untouched and clean. The 16-year-old looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. His master, the legendary sword god Kong Yelchin, notices his lack of focus. Are you really that tired? Yelchin asks, stroking his white beard. Wenxian just sighs, the weight of the quiet life starting to feel a bit heavy. I'm not, master. Wenxian rubs his head, trying to play off his distraction. He looks back at the go board, realizing he's been caught slacking. This game is over, master. He points out the obvious state of the board. The old man chuckles, asking Wenxian what move he would have made next. Wenxian hovers a black stone over the board, considering his options. If I were in the position of the black stone, I'd have attacked this place and driven on both sides at the same time. Since the white stone can't defend both, he figures there's got to be a way through. Yelchin listens, then asks a cryptic question. Wenxian, what if you can't find your way? The boy looks up, a bit startled by the sudden change in tone. And just follow your opponent's path, the master continues, his hand resting on the board. Wenxian argues that doing that would never lead to a real victory. You can just go as you like, that's what it means to live, Yelchin says, looking out at the sunset. The master places both hands on Wenxian's shoulders, his expression unreadable. Master. The scene shifts as Wenxian finds himself walking alone through a dark, foggy forest. He can't stop thinking about how weird everything is. Why give him this mission? It's odd that he'd be assigned a guard mission when he doesn't have any proper martial prowess. He looks down at the letter tucked into his belt. Is this really just a mission? Is it a mission, he wonders, staring into the darkness. His master told him to take the book and deliver it to Duda Mountain. Master, what is this? Wenxian had asked, holding the mysterious object. The master just looked at him, his scar prominent in a dim light. He said it was an urgent matter he couldn't handle himself, and since his senior Zhang Yun was out, Wenxian was the only choice. The boy hesitated, but Yelchin told him not to worry. His senior brother would be back soon. A full moon hangs over the dark trees as the wind picks up. I'll be back, master, Wenxian promised, giving a formal bow. He felt a strange knot in his stomach even as he left. The master just watched him go, stroking his chin in silence. Wenxian paused at the gate, looking back one last time. He came to a stop, his feet crunching on the dirt path. Master, he suddenly thinks, his mind racing back to their game. He realizes that if he were in his master's position, he would have given up on that game long ago. The realization hits him like a ton of bricks. Why stay in a losing game? He thinks back to the master's calm, scarred face. Yeah, it'll be fine. Who in the Miram world would even dare to harm his master, the sword god? He tries to convince himself that his senior brother will be back soon to help. Let's stop worrying about useless things, he tells himself, but the dread persists. He looks out into the dark mountains, the moon reflecting off the distant peaks. Suddenly, he turns and starts sprinting back the way he came. It's too suspicious to just call everything a coincidence. Something is wrong. There's no way his master would send him on a 100-mile journey alone for no reason. Wuncian races back toward the house, his heart pounding in his chest. Master, he shouts, but a massive, shadowy figure suddenly looms over him. A hand suddenly clamps over Wuncian's mouth, cutting off his shout as he's pulled back into the shadows. Wuncian, it's me, a voice whispers urgently, revealing the figure to be a familiar ally. Wuncian's eyes widen with recognition as he looks up at the man holding him. It's his senior brother, Zhang Yun, the Plum Blossom Pure Warrior, who signals for him to be silent. Wuncian, be quiet, Zhang Yun commands, his expression stern and focused. Wuncian can only nod in fear as Zhang Yun prepares to move them to a safer vantage point. Zhang Yun takes off, carrying Wuncian as he leaps across the high rooftops of the estate. They move with incredible speed and agility, gliding over the tiles in the dim moonlight. You must stay as quiet as a mouse, Zhang Yun whispers as they settle onto a roof. Together, they peer over the edge at the tense confrontation unfolding in the courtyard below. Wuncian watches with bated breath, his heart pounding at the sight of his master. Below them, Kong Yulchin stands firm. I didn't want to go this far. It's just an interpretation of the scripture. There's no reason to be greedy for it, he says calmly. He faces a dark silhouette that seems to be demanding the secrets Yulchin guards. Even if you possess it, you'd never be able to comprehend it, Yulchin warns, his voice steady despite the danger. The master's eyes narrow as he senses the lethal intent from his opponent. In a flash of blue energy, the attacker strikes, leveling the area with a devastating blast. Wuncian tries to scream for his master, but Zhang Yun pins him down, muffling his voice. How dare you? The attacker roars, gathering a sphere of pure, crackling energy in his hand. Yulchin is sent flying by the force of the explosion, crashing into the dirt and rubble. The master struggles to sit up, gasping for air as blood trickles from his mouth. Why, you'll never! The attacker's imposing silhouette looms over the fallen master as the dust settles. With a sharp snap, the figure opens a fan. Well, in that case, Go Yusing, the stocky antagonist, hides his cold indifference behind his blue fan. I'll find it myself. A burst of dark, swirling energy explodes outward as Go Yusing begins his search. Wuncian is left to struggle in Zhang Yun's tight grip, muffled whimpers escaping his throat. Terror fills Wuncian's eyes as he watches his master's plight from above. Wuncian gasps for air as Zhang Yun finally releases his mouth. Huff! Wuncian, focus your energy on your dantian and imagine circulating your chi. Yung Yun whispers urgently. Huff, is he gone? Wuncian asks, his body trembling with fear. Zhang Yun shakes his head, his eyes fixed on the shadows below. No! Someone else is coming, Zhang Yun warns, his voice tight with anticipation. More dark figures, the dark butterfly shadow, descend from the sky like predatory birds. They land with heavy, silent impacts, surrounding the area where Yulchin lies. Wuncian and Zhang Yun watch in horror as reinforcements for the enemy arrive. What should I do? What should I do? Wuncian thinks, his mind spinning frantically. A group of masked assassins looms over the injured master. You look badly injured, one mocks. Yulchin sits helplessly amidst the wreckage, blood trickling from his mouth as he faces his new tormentors. The leaders of the squad, the identical twin killers Cho Young and Wu Young, step forward with twin malicious smiles. Wu Young leans in with a sadistic grin, asking if he should hunt for the book first. Cho Young hovers behind him, wondering if they should just take the old man's life instead. Master Kong Yulchin lies broken on the ground, while the twins casually debate which hand to cut off first. A close-up of those shark-like teeth tells you exactly what kind of monsters these two are. Wu Young realizes the truth. The scripture isn't here because Yulchin gave it to a disciple. The villain looks down at the coughing, bloody master and asks if the older student is the one carrying it. Hidden on the roof, Kong Wuncian and Zhang Yun overhear the conversation and realize they're the targets. The younger boy is paralyzed with fear, his eyes wide as he looks at his senior. Wuncian turns to him, asking point-blank if the master handed him something. It's the wisdom of the secret master scripture, the prize everyone is willing to kill for. Wuncian stares at the scroll, knowing this simple object is the cause of all this bloodshed. He looks at the terrified boy, a plan forming in his mind. He shuts his eyes tight for a moment, trying to keep his composure despite the sweat dripping down his face. When he opens them, his gaze is sharp and ready. He tells Jong Yun to listen closely because there's no room for mistakes. Jong Yun is desperate, insisting that he wants to go down and fight to save their master too. But Won-Sien cuts him off. The boy has a much more important role to play. He hands a book back and orders the kid to memorize every single word in it. Jong Yun stares at him in shock, unable to believe the request. Won-Sien doesn't have time for questions. He just needs to know how long it'll take. Jong Yun stammers out that he needs 30 minutes. Won-Sien gives him a reassuring pat on the head and says that'll be enough. It's a silent goodbye as Won-Sien prepares to risk everything. He admits he's putting a heavy burden on the boy, but they have no other choice. Jong Yun can barely speak, watching his senior brother with tears in his eyes. Won-Sien tells him he has total faith in him before turning away. With a sudden burst of movement, he leaps off the rooftop and into the fray. He dives through the air, his cloak snapping violently behind him. The masked guards in the courtyard look up, completely caught off guard. Won-Sien hits the ground like a meteor, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. He lands right in the middle of the enemies, standing his ground. He takes a breath, his face a mask of pure determination. He looks at the carnage around him and demands to know how they dare cause such a massacre. The twins just grin, delighted that the older disciple has finally shown his face. Won-Sien ignores their taunts, shouting out to see if his master is still alive. Yulchin is in a bad way, his voice failing as he tries to call out for Jong Yun. Seeing the state of his master, Won-Sien realizes the situation is even more dire than he thought. The old man is barely hanging on, clutching his chest as blood spills onto the white stones. Won-Sien narrows his eyes, wondering if he can really handle both of these monsters on his own. The twins stand ready, their dark auras flaring as they face down the lone student. A single footstep echoes through the silent courtyard. Won-Sien swallows hard, the pressure of their killing intent nearly suffocating him. The villains demand the scripture, promising him a quick death if he just gives up. Won-Sien launches his first strike, his blade biting into the ground with a flash of blue energy. He flows into a continuous swing, the blue light of his chi trailing behind like a silk ribbon. He officially activates the water moon technique, his focus entirely on the monsters in front of him. Woo-young just bares his jagged teeth, finding the whole thing amusing as he promises to play with the boy. The villain tightens his grip on his Chorai, the whisk-like weapon pulsing with a dark red aura. Cho-young watches from behind, agreeing that this student is a decent enough toy for his brother. Woo-young lunges forward, his movements a blur of red light and malicious intent. Won-Sien barely has time to brace himself as the first real attack comes screaming in. He falls back on the basics, trying to keep his footing against the overwhelming pressure. The twins are moving so fast they look like shadows flickering across the courtyard. Woo-young laughs, recognizing the famous water moon sword technique as he closes the distance. He taunts Won-Sien, asking if he should try his own version of style. The two clash, blue and red sparks flying as their weapons collide again and again. The red energy of the twin starts to bleed into Won-Sien's defense, overwhelming his light. Woo-young's laughter echoes through the yard, a chilling sound that signals how much he's enjoying this. Won-Sien lets out a roar of frustration and effort, pushing himself to his absolute limit. Every muscle in his jaw is tense as he tries to find a single opening in the villain's assault. High above, Jong Yun flips through the pages of the scripture, the paper rustling in his trembling hands. He repeats the command to memorize it, his eyes darting across the ancient text. Tears prick at his eyes as he realizes the sacrifice his senior is making for these few minutes of time. Down below, a massive shockwave erupts as Won-Sien blocks another heavy blow. He's drenched in sweat, his breathing ragged as he stares into the red eyes of his opponent. Woo-young continues to mock him, calling him a disgrace to the title of the sword god's disciple. Won-Sien is forced to retreat, his movements becoming sluggish as the fatigue sets in. He glares at the Chorai, realizing it's more than just a decorative whisk. It's a conduit for lethal energy. He tries to mask his exhaustion behind his scarf, his mind racing for a way out. That's when it hits him. The red dust floating in the air isn't just for show. It's a nerve toxin. He tries to hold his breath as another wave of the paralyzing powder is released into the air. An explosion of red light sends him reeling, his vision starting to blur from the poison. The reality of the situation settles in. The gap in their power isn't something he can bridge with just effort. Woo-young leans in close, his voice a cruel whisper as he tells Won-Sien he's been playing with him all along. Wen-Xian's eyes go wide as he realizes he hasn't even seen the villain's true strength yet. The fight shifts toward the outer walls, the stones shaking from the sheer force of the battle. A massive impact shatters the masonry, sending debris flying everywhere. Wen-Xian is dodging for his life now, the red trails of the Chorai following him like hungry snakes. Wu Yong is in a frenzy, his face twisted into a mask of pure bloodlust. Wen-Xian catches another blow on his blade, his teeth gritted so hard they might shatter. Cho-Young finally speaks up from the sidelines, acknowledging that the kid has held out longer than he expected. But the boredom has set in. He orders his brother to stop messing around and end it. Wen-Xian senses the shift in the air, a sudden, cold dread washing over him. Wu Yong thanks him for the entertainment before launching his final, decisive strike. A sickening spray of red paints the air as Wen-Xian's right arm is torn away. Wu Yong towers over the boy, his sadistic grin widening as he watches the horrific results of his strike. Kang Yulchin lets out a gut-wrenching scream, his eyes wide with shock and grief as he calls out for Zhang Yun. Wen-Xian collapses to one knee, the world spinning as he stares at the bloody stump where his right arm used to be. The villains watch with detached curiosity, mocking the boy by asking if he plans to continue his journey as a one-armed swordsman. Wen-Xian's breath comes in ragged, wet gasps, his vision clouded by the sheer agony of the wound. Despite the blood soaking through his robes, he forces himself to stay conscious, refusing to fall until he's bought every second he can. Zhang Yun can only watch in tearful silence, clutching the scripture as Wen-Xian stands as a final, bloody shield between him and the monsters. Blood drips onto the cold stone floor, pooling around his feet. Zhang Yun gasps for air, a deep cut bleeding down his face. He's lost his right arm, but he's not done yet. His left hand is still enough to hold a sword. He lunges forward, determined to keep up the pressure. He just needs to buy as much time as possible. His blade clashes against the enemy, blue sparks flying as he pours every bit of his remaining strength into the strike. Wu Yong just grins back, his sharp teeth bared in a mocking sneer. He laughs at how hard it must be to keep balance with only one arm, then promises to take the other one too. The villain's face is twisted with sadistic joy as he moves in for the kill. Zhang Yun is forced onto the defensive, barely blocking a flurry of red energy strikes. He's looking for even the smallest opening. The pressure is relentless. He's being driven back, his sword shaking under the weight of the onslaught. Sweat stings his eyes as the gap in their power becomes painfully clear. A heavy blow catches him off guard, slamming into his chest. He's sent tumbling across the courtyard, crashing hard into the dirt. More blood spatters the ground. He's barely holding on. Gritting his teeth, Zhang Yun tries to push himself back up. He just needs a little more time. Wu Yong lets out a long, mocking laugh at the sight of him. He stands over his fallen opponent, calling the disciple of the great sword god a total disappointment. He admits he wanted to torture him slowly, but the priority is finding the scripture. Cho-Young watches from behind, his expression cold. It's clear Zhang Yun isn't even a challenge for them. Suddenly, a massive aura of blue energy erupts from Zhang Yun as he forces himself to stand. Cho-Young narrows his eyes, sensing the sudden, dangerous spike in power. He shouts a warning to his brother as Zhang Yun launches himself forward like a bolt of lightning. Wu Yong's eyes go wide. He realized too late that he left himself wide open. A violent explosion of chi rocks the courtyard as the two forces collide. Zhang Yun tears through the light, his blade flashing toward Wu Yong's throat. Wu Yong is knocked back, bleeding from a fresh wound. Zhang Yun curses. The strike wasn't deep enough to finish him. Cho-Young catches his brother, checking the cut while Wu Yong fumes with pure rage. Zhang Yun's breathing is ragged as he looks down at something on the ground. There, sitting innocently in the dirt, is a small, silver ring. It's the ring Cho-Young threw at the last second to deflect the fatal blow. If it wasn't for that intervention, Wu Yong would have been cut in half. Wu Yong has officially lost his cool. He glares at Zhang Yun, baring his teeth in a snarl. He lunges with a lethal red energy blast, the ground cracking under his feet. Zhang Yun stares death in the face, knowing he can't block this one. One hit and he's dead. Out of nowhere, a black Weiqi stone whistles through the air. It hits with the force of a cannonball, the blue shockwave stopping Wu Yong's charge in its tracks. The impact sends the villain flying backward as Cho-Young calls out in shock. Cho-Young looks at his own hand, bruised and trembling from just trying to catch the stone. He looks down at the simple game piece, unable to believe it packed that much power. He realizes they've been played. The old master isn't as helpless as he looked. Master Kang Yulchin sits among the rubble, looking frail but ready for one last stand. Wu Yong snaps, diving straight for the old man. He doesn't care about the scripture anymore. He just wants to tear him apart. Master Kong Yelchin gathers his remaining chi, his hand glowing with a brilliant blue light. He unleashes a sudden, powerful blast that catches the attackers completely by surprise. For a moment, the old master stands like a legend reborn, staring down his enemies with cold eyes. Wu Young is absolutely livid, realized he let his guard down for even a second. The master doesn't stop, following up with a strike that ripples through the air. A heavy blow catches the villain right in the face, sending him reeling back. He continues the assault, moving with a speed and grace that defies his injuries. The courtyard is rocked by another massive explosion of chi as the master pours everything into the fight. Wu Yang calls out to his brother, suddenly sensing a dangerous shift in the air. Cho Young watches closely, wondering if the old man has truly recovered his legendary strength. He realized that if the sword god is back at full power, they don't stand a chance. Master Yelchin invokes the water moon sword technique, creating a flickering blue barrier around himself. Wu Yang's face twists into a feral snarl as he prepares to break through. They clash in a violent explosion of red and blue energy, the ground beneath them crumbling. Cho Young remains calm, his eyes searching for any gap in the old master's defense. Zhang Yun grits his teeth, knowing he has to hold this line no matter what. The exchange is brutal, a flurry of strikes that leaves both sides gasping for breath. Cho Young notices a slight hesitation in the old man's movements. He steps into the fray, his long, dark nails ready to tear through flesh. He mocks the damn old man for wasting his final moments on a hopeless struggle. Master Yelchin tries to strike again, but his strength is clearly starting to fail. Cho Young realizes the sudden recovery was just a masterful bluff. Wu Young lets out a sadistic chuckle, his eyes wide with the thrill of the hunt. He promises to make their deaths slow and unimaginably painful. He lunges forward, determined to finish what he started. The villains coordinate their attack, a chaotic dance of red energy that fills the air. Zhang Yun's eyes go wide as he realizes he can't dodge the incoming blow. A heavy strike connects, sending him flying across the courtyard as he coughs up a trail of blood. Master Yelchin lets out a horrified scream as he watches his disciple fall. Wu Yang doesn't let up, his red energy tearing through the air. Zhang Yun hits the ground hard, his body tumbling into the dirt. He lies there, motionless, as a pool of blood begins to form on the stone floor. Wu Yang stands over him, gloating about finally crushing the great hero. Suddenly, Zhang Yun lets out a shout, drawing everyone's attention back to him. A small, tattered book falls to the floor, sliding across the stone. Cho Young freezes, his eyes glued to the prize they've been hunting for this whole time. He can't believe it's finally right there in front of him. But the master looks toward the roof with pure horror, wondering why young Kong Wenxian has returned to this nightmare. Wenxian looks down at the slaughter in the courtyard from the safety of the rooftop. Seeing his home in ruins, he knows he can't just stay hidden anymore. He takes a leap of faith, diving straight into the heart of the chaos. He lands right near the fallen scripture, the one thing the attackers haven't found yet. One of the twins catches a glimpse of the book, his eyes narrowing in anticipation. They realize the prize they've been killing for is finally within reach. Wenxian skids through the dirt, barely keeping his balance after the jump. He ignores the villains and rushes straight toward his dying master. Master Yelchin looks up, his vision blurred by blood and exhaustion. He can't believe the boy was reckless enough to come back down there. Wenxian throws his arms around the old man, holding him close. He's sobbing, but the master only wishes he'd fled to safety instead. Yelchin coughs up more blood, his strength completely spent. The twin villains loom over them like dark shadows, wondering if this was all a trick. Without a word, one of them reaches down and grabs Wenxian by the hair. He yanks the boy away with a violent pull, throwing him across the courtyard. Wenxian is tossed aside, spinning through the air like a rag doll. He hits the hard ground and rolls through the dust and debris. A fresh wave of blood spills from his mouth as he gasps for air. Zhang Yun, still standing despite his missing arm, rushes over to help. He checks to see if Wenxian can still move, shielding him from the killers. The villains just watch the struggle, mockingly impressed by the kid's spirit. One of the twins rips into the book they recovered, only to find it's a useless ledger. Zhang Yun keeps himself between the twins and the injured Wenxian. He leans down and asks the boy if he's managed to memorize the entire scripture. When Wenxian confirms it, a sad but determined smile crosses Zhang Yun's face. He reaches into his robes and pulls out another book. He holds it high, declaring that this is the actual wisdom of the secret master. The villain's eyes widen with a mix of hunger and madness. Master Yulchin watches in horror, realizing exactly what Zhang Yun is about to do. The killers wait, certain they finally cornered their ultimate prize. They reach out, thinking the secrets of the sect are finally theirs. But blue spiritual fire suddenly erupts from Zhang Yun's hand. He doesn't hesitate for a second, letting the flames consume the sacred text. The villains scream in shock as they watch their prize burn to a crisp. They stand frozen, watching the legendary book turn to floating embers. Zhang Yun stares them down, cold and defiant, even in his final moments. One of the twins is practically vibrating with rage, his face contorting in fury. As the last bits of ash flutter to the ground, a heavy silence falls over the courtyard. The villain finally snaps, lunging forward with a roar of pure hate. He unleashes a devastating energy strike, meant to obliterate the man who mocked him. The blow connects with a sickening force, sending blood and dust flying into the air. Zhang Yun grits his teeth, his one-armed stance radiating defiance. One of the twins isn't impressed and lunges forward, shouting that he's going to smash the warrior's head in. Wenxian watches from a distance, screaming for his brother to stop before it's too late. The villain's energy strike connects with a brutal impact, shattering the ground. Blood drips from Zhang Yun's mouth as he struggles to stay on his feet. Cho Young steps forward, telling his brother to calm down, since no one would be stupid enough to actually burn such a treasure. He narrows his eyes, convinced that the senior disciple must have a backup plan hidden somewhere. Another strike sends Zhang Yun reeling as he cries out in agony. The villain looms over him like a vulture, demanding he speak before they tear his guts out. Zhang Yun just looks up at him with a bloody smirk, saying there's something even better than a handwritten copy. Wenxian tries to rush in to save him, but he can't get past the other killers. Zhang Yun slowly raises his hand, his finger pointing toward the young boy. He declares that Wenxian is the only lead they have left. The boy can only watch in horror as Zhang Yun reveals that he's the one who knows every secret technique by heart. The realization hits the twins like a physical blow, their eyes wide with sudden greed. Wenxian can barely breathe, stammering out his brother's name in utter shock. In a brief flashback, we see Zhang Yun silencing the boy during their desperate preparation. He had instructed Wenxian to memorize the book and then deliver a fake to the enemies. Wenxian was terrified they'd see through the lie immediately. But Zhang Yun had promised to handle the rest, telling the boy to just trust him. Back in the present, Zhang Yun looks at the boy one last time, knowing his plan is working. Master Yulchin watches from the sidelines, realizing the heavy burden Zhang Yun has just placed on the child. The old master's heart breaks as he silently begs for the boy's forgiveness. Cho Young isn't entirely convinced, asking if this is just another trick to save the little brat's life. The other twin points out that they've searched the entire estate and found nothing. The kid is literally their only lead. Cho Young grinds his teeth, his frustration mounting as he realizes his hands are tied. Zhang Yun knows he's won this round, telling them straight up that they can't afford to kill the boy. A wicked, predatory grin spreads across Cho Young's face. He suddenly lunges out and snatches Wenxian right out of the air. He decides to take the boy with him, figuring they can always kill him later. Zhang Yun lets out a shaky breath, whispering that this will do. His brother is safe for now. But the price of that safety is immediately apparent as a massive wound opens in his chest. Cho Young drives his hand straight through the warrior, declaring that he's no longer needed. Zhang Yun's eyes bulge as he coughs up a spray of blood, his life force fading fast. His final thoughts are filled with regret for burdening such a young child with so much responsibility. He looks at Wenxian one last time, the boy's face framed by the very wound that's killing him. As his strength fails, he silently asks for forgiveness as he begins to fall. Wenxian's mouth falls open, the sound of his world shattering stuck in his throat. Then the scream finally erupts, a soul-crushing cry for the brother he's just lost. Kong Wenxian is trapped in his own head, reliving the trauma of his past. He's calling himself a useless piece of garbage for everything he failed to do. He sees the bloodied body of Zhang Yun, the senior brother who gave everything to save him. The kid is absolutely losing it, gritting his teeth while the self-loathing eats him alive. We shift back to the snowy ruins of the estate, where things are going from bad to worse. The sect leader walks through the carnage, mocking the sword saint for being the only one left standing. He grabs Kong Yulchin by the hair, forcing the old man to look up. That shark-toothed freak leans in close, clearly enjoying every second of this. He tells Yulchin to take a good look at the miserable state of his fallen disciple. The old master tries to close his eyes, but the villain tells him that won't make reality go away. Since he doesn't want to watch, The sect leader decides he'll just pluck the master's eyes out himself. Young Wenxian can only scream in horror as he's held back, forced to witness the nightmare. The blade is inches away, and the villain even offers to share the other eye with his brother. He pulls back for the strike, aiming straight for Yulchin's left eye. Suddenly, the whole scene is swallowed by a massive flash of golden light. Master Yulchin lets out one final, earth-shaking roar. The sect leader's smug grin instantly vanishes when he realizes the old man has one last trick up his sleeve. A fist wreathed in pure energy begins to glow with blinding intensity. One of the twins realizes the danger and screams for his brother to get back. Yulchin pours every remaining ounce of his life force into this one move. A giant fist of golden chi descends, looking like the hand of God coming down for judgment. He unleashes the full power of his technique in a desperate final stand. A beam of pure destruction tears through the estate, leveling everything in its path. The villains are caught right in the middle of the blast, their arrogance turning to pure terror. One of them screams out for his brother as the energy swallows them whole. Wenxian is thrown to the ground by the sheer force of the shockwave. Through the red haze of the battle, it looks like a lethal strike is coming in from above. Yulchin collapses to his knees, steam rising from his body as his internal energy burns out. He's completely spent, every last drop of his innate chi used up in that final attack. Seeing their opening, one of the villains lunges forward to finish the job. Wenxian screams for his master, but he's too far away to do anything. Yulchin looks back at his disciple one last time, his eyes full of a strange calm. The boy tries to run to him, tears streaming down his face as he reaches out. We cut to a memory of a Weiqi game, a stone being placed firmly on the board. Master Yulchin's voice echoes in his head, warning him that one wrong move is a fatal mistake. In the present, the Sword Saint accepts his end with a small, sad smile. A red arc of energy slashes through the air, and everything goes black. Wenxian's scream of absolute despair echoes through the ruins. A lone crow watches from a branch as blood splatters across the snow. The birds take flight, heading off into a cold, orange sunset. Crows circle the mountains as feathers drift down like black snow. The old woman in white robes doesn't even look back as she walks away from the massacre. Kong Yulchin is left behind, dead in the snow, marking the end of a legend. A foot splashes into a pool of blood as someone walks away from the ruins of the Kong estate. A single eye watches the carnage, cold and completely unreadable. Every detail of the Sword Saint's final moments is burned into her memory. The old woman in white stands over Kong Yulchin's body, looking down at the man who was once a legend. She turns to leave him in the snow, wondering if this pathetic end was really all there was to him. She looks back one more time, muttering that he should have just listened to her from the start. To her, their long and complicated history shouldn't have ended in such a bloodbath. She clutches her robes, regret flickering in her eyes as she calls herself foolish for how things turned out. The old woman starts to walk away, the weight of the past trailing behind her like her cloak. Behind her, Master Yulchin lies silent, his face frozen in the final moments of his life. She has no intention of giving him a burial, claiming this cold departure is the most courtesy she can offer. With a final, whispered farewell, she severs the last of their ties. Her footsteps crunch in the fresh snow as she puts distance between herself and the ruin. But something stops her in her tracks, a sudden presence or a sound from the wreckage. Her eyes drift toward a glowing blue sword sticking out of the debris, humming with energy. The blade is marked with the name Water Moon, a relic of the fallen sect still pulsing with light. Suddenly, the vision shatters, replaced by the guttural screams of the present day. We're back in a dark cave where the sect leader is currently ripping into Kong Wenxian. The kid is chained up and covered in his own blood while the villain demands the contents of the scripture. Through the pain, Wenxian manages to glare back, insisting that he doesn't know anything. The masked guards aren't buying it, shouting at him to stop lying and tell their leader the truth. The sect leader's shark teeth glisten as he warns the boy that this is his absolute last chance to speak. He grabs Wenxian's bloodied arm, his grip tightening as the boy grits his teeth. He threatens to show him a level of hell where every single bone in his body is shattered. Even his own men are getting nervous, asking if he's really about to use the supreme divine skill. But Wenxian refuses to give up the secret his master and brother risked their lives to protect. The villain doesn't care about the consequences and prepares to unleash his most brutal technique. Dark, suffocating energy begins to swirl around the cave as the sect leader prepares to strike. He starts channeling the power directly into the boy's meridians, looking to break his spirit from the inside. Wunsian's body arches in pure agony as the dark veins of the technique crawl across his skin. The sect leader screams in his face, desperate to extract the scripture's secrets before the boy dies. Wunsian just keeps screaming, his voice cracking from the absolute torture of it all. The villain is losing his patience, barking at him to just spill the information already. In a moment of pure desperation, the kid begs the man to just end his life and get over with. The sect leader just licks his lips, finding the boy's suffering amusing in a twisted sort of way. He leans in with a demonic grin, asking if he should really just kill him right now. His guards panic, reminding him that if the kid dies, the heart and mind sutra is gone forever. He ignores them and raises a clawed hand, ready to deliver a final, crushing blow. Wunsian closes his eyes, bracing for the end of his short, painful life. The masked subordinates shout for him to stop, but the sect leader is too far gone in his bloodlust. A spray of red hits the floor as a sudden strike interrupts the execution. A flash of blue energy cuts through the air, severing the sect leader's finger before he can even blink. The sect leader's eye bulges in pure, unadulterated shock as he realizes his own fingers have been lopped off. Emerging from the shadows, Zhou Yun holds her glowing crescent sword, relieved she hasn't arrived too late to save the boy. With a calm but commanding voice, she orders the villains to step away from the child immediately. Her blue eyes burn with an icy resolve as she repeats her demand, giving them no room for negotiation. The entire cave falls into a tense silence as the masked guards and the bloodied Wunsian look toward the sudden intruder. The sect leader finally finds his voice, screaming in agony and disbelief as he clutches his mutilated hand. Seeing their master wounded, the masked guards immediately shift their focus, declaring the woman the new priority target. Before they can even draw their weapons, Zhou Yun is already a blur of movement, weaving through their ranks like a phantom. One guard can only stare in horror, unable to comprehend how she moved so quickly past his defense. She ignores the chaos around her and looks down at the battered Wunsian, asking if he's really the Sword Saint's disciple. Wunsian can barely keep his eyes open, his face a mask of dried blood and exhaustion. As the sect leader prepares a desperate backstab, Zhou Yun realizes the boy has completely lost consciousness from his injuries. The villain's gaze is fixed on her with murderous intent, his sanity slipping away with the loss of his blood. He swings a massive arc of dark red energy, hoping to cleave the woman and the boy in two. Zhou Yun barely flinches, her own blue aura flaring up to meet the incoming assault. The sect leader roars like a demon, promising to take her head as payment for the humiliation he's suffered. The air in the cave crackles as their powers collide, the villain's manic laughter echoing off the damp stone walls. Zhou Yun remains composed, her focus entirely on the crescent blade in her hand as she prepares her next move. She channels her energy into a series of glowing blue spheres, ready to unleash a technique the sect leader hasn't seen before. He just scoffs, dismissing her skills as cheap tricks while he prepares another heavy strike. But a sudden glint of light catches him off guard, drawing his eye toward a lethal projectile. A tiny needle of blue energy streaks through the air, aimed directly at the sect leader's face with pinpoint accuracy. A sickening squelch echoes through the cave as the projectile finds its mark, drawing a fresh spray of blood. The sect leader's scream of pain is bone-chilling, his hands flying to his face as he stumbles backward. Panicked, the guards rush forward to form a protective wall around their fallen lord. Zhou Yun seizes the moment, invoking the butterfly's image in butterfly shadow formation to overwhelm their senses. The guards are left swinging at nothing but light and dust as dozens of afterimages of the woman appear. They scream for her death, but their blades only pass through the glowing blue shadows she's left behind. In the confusion, she grabs Wunsian by his blood-soaked robes, pulling him towards safety. With the boy in tow, she leaps through the air, her movements as light and effortless as a butterfly's flight. She soars over the heads of the confused guards, her blue energy trailing behind her like a silk ribbon. Her eye glows with an ethereal light, tracking every threat in the room as she plans her escape route. With a single, fluid motion, she slashes through the air, sending waves of blue force crashing into the remaining guards. Wunsian remains limp in her arms, a heavy weight that she carries with surprising ease. The guards are sent flying into the cave walls, their formation completely shattered by her superior technique. She doesn't stop, continuing her dance of death until every immediate threat has been neutralized. One of the survivors gasps out a question, desperate to know who or what this terrifying woman actually is. Something catches her attention, a subtle shift in the air or another presence moving in the darkness. A massive burst of pressure suddenly fills the room, signaling that the fight is far from over. Zhou Yun reacts instantly, diving low with Wenxian to avoid a devastating area of effect attack. She skids across the floor and comes to a stop, holding the boy close to her chest as she glares back at the shadows. The cave is littered with the groaning bodies of the guards, while the sect leader watches from the gloom, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The sect leader reels back, his mind racing as he senses a terrifying, immeasurable energy radiating from the newcomer. His good eye wide with panic. He wonders who this person could possibly be to possess such overwhelming power. He looks toward the woman standing over the battered Wenxian, her calm presence a sharp contrast to the carnage around her. His gaze falls upon her blade, and his blood runs cold as he recognizes the legendary Crescent Moon Sword. "Why are you here?" he screams, his voice cracking with a mixture of rage and genuine fear. The realization hit him like a physical blow. This is Zhou Yun, the renowned Cloud Child and disciple of the Sword Saint. Zhou Yun steps forward, her voice icy as she explains she's only there to reclaim what was stolen. The sect leader clutches his bleeding face, trembling as he asks if the Sword Saint himself is also with her. She levels her glowing sword at his throat, warning him that it would be in his best interest to surrender before her master arrives. Sweat beads on the villain's brow as he realizes that if the Sword Saint appears, the Dark Butterfly Shadow Sect is completely doomed. He needs to retreat immediately. Desperate and cornered, he insists that he doesn't have the scripture she's looking for. Zhou Yun's gaze remains unwavering as she asks if he truly wants to lose his remaining eye as well. The sect leader grovels, swearing it's the truth and that the senior disciple of the sword god already burned the scripture. He prostrates himself on the dirt floor, begging her to believe him because he would never dare to lie in such a life-threatening situation. Zhou Yun considers his words, noting that even a man like him wouldn't likely endure such humiliation just to maintain a lie. She looks back at the unconscious Wenxian, her mind turning to a new, more concerning question. "Then why did you torture this child?" she demands, her tone demanding a much better explanation than he's likely to give. The sect leader's face contorts into a mask of pure malice, realizing that if he loses this last clue, he'll have nothing left. He must find a way to deceive her and escape at any cost. Doke grovels on the floor, desperately claiming he only tortured the kid to find a copy of the secret scripture. He's practically crying now, begging her to act like she never saw him and promising to repay the favor one day. He stays face down in the dirt, pleading for his life. Zhou Yun looks down at him with pure disgust, deciding there's no point in killing someone she has no personal grudge against. She warns him that if he's lying about the book, her master will personally come to hunt him down. That threat works. Doke frantically agrees, swearing he'll even take his own life if he's lying. Zhou Yun turns her back on him, done with the conversation. Doke wastes no time and orders his men to retreat down the mountain immediately. The swordswoman watches as they scramble to leave the cave. But Doke hasn't let go of the kid yet, yelling at the beaten boy to get up. He glares at Wenxian, whispering that they still have unfinished business. Before he can do anything else, a burst of blue energy snatches the kid right out of his hands. The pressure is so intense that Doke starts coughing up blood. Zhou Yun effortlessly walks away, with Wenxian draped over her shoulder. Doke is left face down again, complaining about his brother's death and demanding he be the one to finish Wenxian off. Zhou Yun stops and looks back, telling him her master gave her 2 orders: find the scripture and save this child. Her eyes glow with a chilling blue light as she warns him not to resist. Doke freezes. He can feel her killing intent and knows she might actually wipe them all out. He knows if he lets the kid go now, he loses his only lead to this secret technique. He grits his teeth, looking like he might try one last desperate gamble. He's shaking with pure frustration. He starts to channel his energy, determined to strike. He looks like a cornered animal about to snap. Zhou Yun doesn't even turn around, simply telling him that if he wants to fight, that's fine. But she makes it clear, the moment her sword leaves its scabbard, his entire sect is finished. Doke stops cold, the blood draining from his face. He forces himself to stay calm and rethink his strategy. He realizes his best bet is to let her take the kid. If she keeps him alive, he could just wait for another chance later. He yells out a final threat, swearing he'll settle this debt eventually. Outside the cave, the sun is setting over the mountains as they finally leave. Wenxian finally starts to come around, groaning in pain. He looks up to see the girl in white standing over him. His vision is blurry as he asks who she is. A sudden jolt of pain hits him, making him wince. She tells him to relax, She gave him a healing pill, so he wouldn't die just yet. He's still wary, struggling to keep his eyes open as he repeats the question. She introduces herself as Zhou Yun, a disciple of Swordmaster Li Myong. Wen Xian is stunned. If she's Li Myong's disciple, that makes her his master's junior. She's blunt, telling him she's older, so she's dropping the formal talk. He asks if she's the one who saved him, but she just says it was her master's orders. No big deal. Wen Xian tries to be polite, thanking her as senior, but she just finds it creepy and tells him to use her name. He blinks, caught off guard by how straightforward she is. Zhou Yun leans in, asking Wen Xian where the Heart Sutra commentary is hidden. Wen Xian is paralyzed with fear, wondering if the Swordmaster is also hunting for the same thing. He can't understand why everyone, from the dark butterfly shadow to a Swordmaster, is so obsessed with that single scripture. He thinks back to the book itself, the wisdom of the secret master. To him, the actual contents seemed completely ordinary. Even while he was memorizing the text, he found the whole thing incredibly strange. He couldn't fathom why they were so desperate for it, but because of that one book, everything was destroyed in a flash of violence. He lost his senior brother and his master all in the same day. He remembers his master's final warning: trust no one and never reveal what's inside that scripture to anyone. Looking at Zhou Yun, he decides it's already long gone. She watches him closely, waiting for an answer. Wen Xian lies right to her face, claiming his senior brother burned the scripture before he died. She looks skeptical, asking him if he's telling the truth. He doubles down, swearing that it's really gone. He begs her to believe him, desperate to keep the secret safe. Zhou Yun sighs. Since the book is gone, but he's alive, she considers her master's task finished. Wen Xian lets out a breath of relief, thinking he actually pulled it off. But then she tells him that since she's done, they should just go their separate ways right here. Wen Xian panics and shouts for her to wait. He asks her if she can just come with him, which catches her completely off guard. Zhou Yun looks at him with a mix of confusion and irritation. Wen Xian explains that his master told him to go to Mount Duta, but he's in no condition to make it there alone. He shows her his left arm. It's a mangled purple mess. He tells her it was hit by the supreme divine technique and is already starting to rot. If he keeps going like this, he'll be dead before he even sees the mountain. He bows his head, begging her to at least escort him to the next village, Jumdang. Zhou Yun looks conflicted, clearly not want to take on the extra baggage. She lets out a tired sigh, her resolve weakening. She admits she's heading in that direction anyway, so she agrees to take him that far. Wen Xian's face lights up. He starts bowing and thanking her over and over again. Zhou Yun cuts him off, asking what his name is. He introduces himself as Kong Wen Xian and immediately tacks on Senior Zhou Yun again. She tells him to stop with the senior stuff, but he just happily repeats her name. 4 days pass as they make their way through the rugged terrain. They finally reach the bustling village of Jumdang, though it took a lot longer than Wen Xian expected. He turns to her and offers another sincere thank you. He tells her he won't hold her back any longer now that they've made it. Wen Xian knows this is the right move, even if it's hard. Over the last few days, he realized she's a genuinely kind person under that cold exterior. She cared for him through 3 different seizures. He feels like he's only made it this far because of her help. He thinks to himself that asking for anything more would just be greedy. Zhou Yun lets out a long sigh as she watches him limp away. She knows that if she leaves the kid behind now, there's no way he survives the rest of the trek to Mount Duda. Zhou Yun gazes down, wrestling with a nagging sense of guilt. She looks at Wen Xian and wonders if she's becoming more loyal than she intended. Finally, she makes a decision, telling him that she will accompany him all the way to Mount Duta. Wen Xian's eyes go wide with pure, unadulterated joy. "Oh, really?" he stammers. He practically bounces with excitement, thanking her profusely. Zhou Yun tries to act cool, telling herself she's only doing this to keep an eye on the scripture. She claims she's not being soft-hearted, just practical, and suggests they find an inn for the night. Soon, they're sitting before a feast and inn. Wen Xian stares at the spread of food with his mouth watering. He asks if it's really okay to order this much. Zhou Yun, already digging in, simply says she's unusually hungry today. Wen Xian tries to eat, thanking her again, but a sudden sharp pain shoots through his arm. His bandaged arm spasms violently, causing him to drop his chopsticks with a clatter. Zhou Yun stops eating and looks at him with concern. She knows that if he survives, that arm will likely still have to be amputated. Their quiet moment is shattered by a loud, angry voice from the floor below. "Hey, why are you here?" A man's voice booms back, sounding relaxed and jovial, telling them not to get too worked up. The man, Jik Wu, stands confidently in a tavern, a massive blade on his back, and asks the waiter for a good bottle of wine. Zhou Yun's face darkens. She slams her hands on the table, shouting that even arrogance has its limits. Wen-Xian is startled by her sudden outburst and asks if she knows the man. Downstairs, Jiku freezes as he hears her voice, his eyes going wide in recognition. There's a sudden, powerful crash as someone leaps through the air. Jiku lands right in front of their table on the second floor, grinning broadly. As expected, it's Lady Zhou. Wen-Xian is left speechless, wondering how someone could reach the second floor so easily. Jiku laughs and asks if the swordmaster is still as sharp as ever. Zhou Yun just crosses her arms, clearly not in the mood for small talk. He chuckles, noting her prickly personality hasn't changed. Then he notices Wen-Xian sitting there and asks who he is. Zhou Yun tells him he should introduce himself properly before asking questions. Jiku quickly agrees. He puffs out his chest and proudly introduces himself as Swift Sword Jiku, telling Wen-Xian to just call him senior brother. Wen-Xian politely introduces himself, though he feels a bit intimidated by the muscular warrior. As they talk, Zhou Yun notices a strange, dark shadow passing over Wen-Xian's face. Jiku's jovial mood suddenly vanishes as he notices something off about Wen-Xian's bandaged arm. He senses a powerful, dark aura emanating from Wen-Xian. His eyes narrow in shock. Elsewhere, far from the inn, the moon hangs high over a jagged mountain range. In the shadows of the forest, a violent struggle is taking place. Dok is thrown back, coughing up blood as he realizes he's in deep trouble. A massive wave of blue energy tears through the area, heading straight for him. Dok screams as the raw power of the attack slams into him. He is sent flying through the air, completely overwhelmed by the force of the strike. A figure shrouded in dust and smoke watches the destruction from a distance. The figure, the second disciple, asks coldly where the scripture is hidden. He steps closer, his blue eye glowing with a menacing light. If you don't tell me, this will get messy, he warns. He looks around at the bodies of the dark butterflies scattered across the ground, noting there are none left to crush. Dok, battered and broken, glares up at him and spits out that they aren't his subordinates. The second disciple unfurls his blue folding fan with a sharp snap. He looks down at Dok with utter contempt, asking if he really thought they were on the same level. Dok realizes the horrific truth. From the very beginning, they were nothing more than expendable pawns. The second disciple pauses, noticing Dok trembling like a leaf on the blood-stained ground. Without a word, he reaches out and seizes Dok by the throat in a crushing, pitiless grip. He effortlessly hoists the man into the air, musing that there is still one survivor left to answer his questions. Dok's face distorts with pain and terror as he chokes out a desperate, garbled plea to his captain. The second disciple's blue eyes narrow behind his fan as he delivers a final ultimatum. Reveal the scripture's location or face total annihilation. Dok struggles against the iron grip, his eyes bulging as the pressure on his neck becomes unbearable. Save me, he rasps, begging for a mercy he never once showed to those he tortured. The second disciple tosses him aside like a piece of useless refuse, his patience clearly having reached its limit. Dok glares up with a mixture of manic fury and utter despair, calling his attacker an insolent wretch. The second disciple ignores the insult, coldly ordering his remaining men to retrieve the scripture at any cost. He notes that this is the only way for the dark butterfly shadow to have any hope of continued survival. Dok grinds his teeth, his jaw clenching as he processes the betrayal and the loss of everything he built. He throws his head back and lets out a long, harrowing scream that tears through the silence of the night. The sound of his agony echoes through the rain-soaked mountains, a haunting testament to his sudden and violent fall from power. In the dark, a final, chilling thought takes hold of his shattered mind. Ah yes, you're alive left now. His eye, bloodshot and filled with an obsessive, murderous light, focuses on the image of a single target. At a nearby inn, Wen-Xian, Zhou Yun, and Jiku share a hearty meal, unaware of the vow of death being sworn against them in the distance. Wen-Xian laughs brightly, his face beaded with sweat from the hot food, while the echo of Dok's hatred screams his name.